how do you figure out what is it that your leaders need? And obviously, as a high growth company, there's a mix of experienced leaders, but also first time leaders who are coming into the business. And so maybe if you could walk us through that process, how do you figure out what you need to include in this solution? And what does that solution look like?
Okay, so first thing is always the unsexy part, go back to the OKRs. So what are the business problems we're trying to solve that year? And those are the tools that I'll build first within any toolkit. So for instance, if one of the OKRs is everybody needs to have a review this year, because they haven't had one, is that one of the first toolkits we'll develop? But then what are the things within those toolkits that need to be built out? I think one thing that happens when you are a leader, and especially if you're new or even if not, there's a bit of like common senseness that we need to get away from. And I hate the term common sense because that's common sense for one person. Right. And I think some examples of this is you become a leader, so you're automatically good at setting goals. You're automatically good at giving feedback. You know how to coach. And everyone builds everything off this assumption that you already have this stuff or these like skills under your tool belt. Well, actually, that's the thing that steps people from doing any of this stuff above it. So it's really stripping back the arrogance of training and being like, what is the thing that really like slows you down? And it is building those baseline tools really like early. So actually a really engaging tool around setting SMART goals is something that people can unpick no matter what level they are in the business, whether you're building out your goals for the year for your team or whether you're brand new to the business and actually you're not a leader, but you still need to set those goals. Right. So we call it Go Managers Toolkit, but also I like it to be a hack that anyone can use. Right. So that actually if you want to become a leader, you can use it. But then if you're not a leader right now, or if you are a leader, you can use it as well. And then I think it's weaving in some more of the things that are a bit more aspirational, that sort of feed it in. And I think a key part of this, which is very much needed, is sort of really diving into all the stuff around equity, diversity, inclusion, and taking these topics and going really macro on them as well. So you're doing these really like finite, nice tools around SMART goal setting, but then you're asking these big questions around what is neurodiversity and are you ready to lead a neurodiverse team and what does that mean? Right. So people can almost learn new questions to ask and learn new questions to Google. And that's the thing with our tools. I don't want to give you all the answers. I want to give you more questions so you can Google it and go on YouTube and do all that stuff and like ask the questions as we're building through that toolkit. But another thing that we do from it is trying to make sure nothing happens in isolation. So if we build a workshop, for instance, I've recently done one on like how to be a kick-ass coach, and everything likes to have a bit of alliteration within it. And so from that, we'll develop toolkits that will dive into every subject that we go into in a bit more detail on that. Right. So one of the things we did in that workshop was we talked about the drama triangle, and I could only talk about that for literally 3 minutes. But then we can build out a whole toolkit on escaping the drama triangle. The GROW model, that's a lifetime of practice. Let's build a whole toolkit on that. So it's weaving it all together so that no matter your learning style, it is kind of there.
I guess, how do you track what works and what doesn't work, Doug? Right? You're trying a bunch of different things. You've got different resources in this toolkit. You know, how are you tracking what's working, what's not working, and what do you do with that information?
So there's a couple of different avenues we go down. So I think if you're talking about technical training, one of my big approaches to any kind of development is everyone you work with is an adult. So treat them like an adult. So what is the training they actually want? And I have a retail background. So if you come, now I work in a tech company. So if you're coming to me and asking for Python training, I'm like, why do you need to learn how to charm a snake? I have no idea what you're on about. They're actually talking about coding. And I'm like, I won't ever know what is the best tool that you're going to use to learn to train, but you will know that. So for the technical training, it's challenging them to go to market to find the thing that works for them. And then all they need to prove back to me is what's the return on investment to the business? And can you prove to me based on your last review that this is going to alleviate one of your pain points or augment one of your strengths? And if they can do that, great, we'll like typically sign off that cost. So I think the win you'll see from that is you actually see the increase of people who are actually taking advantage of our training budget. But then it's also seeing the population grow of different teams that are going for it. So when I first joined the business, our product team were amazing advocates for taking advantage of this training budget. And then recently I've just got a load of our tech team excited about doing it. So it means that this like sort of idea of, oh, I can find a development that works for me and get it from our business, and it actually turns into L&D into a benefit, is seeping across these teams that live in different houses in Hogwarts, whatever you want to keep going on that analogy. And you're seeing that grow. So you can see that in that way. For more of our other interventions, so the next level we do is kind of something that we call a Go PD. Everything get Go Henry has a go on it, which is Go Personal Development. And they're workshops that either we all write internally and lead ourselves, or if they're specific ones where we go external, we might find an external provider to lead them. And that's when you start seeing the uptick in people actually joining those. And another part of looking at how you're seeing the growth in that is actually different leaders who are promoting them within their teams. So our UK team, really great at taking advantage of them. Our US team maybe doesn't do as many, but now we're seeing an increase in those sort of workshops that our US team is. So what is the reason they're joining that workshop? And it's asking those questions to pull them out, so then we can get that team to join more. So it is very much like, I hate to say it, bums on seats is a bit of it. And then from our more Go management toolkit things, it's very early days, but what I hope to see is a reduction in certain figures. So labor turnover will go down. The actual responses we're seeing on our exit interviews, because we use that as a key metric to identify topics, we'll stop seeing those topics coming up as much if we can see that alleviating. And then you get general views, likes, your kind of virtual body language on that kind of stuff.